and we are with an organization called OAR Northwest, and we just spent the last 104 days rowing down the Mississippi River. So how many of you guys have seen the Mississippi River before? How many of you guys have been in the river? Okay. How many of you have been on it, like in a boat or something? No, if you can walk on water, I'll be very impressed. But that, I mean, I know I can't. We can't do that. How many of you guys have been on the river in a boat without a motor? So some of you? Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so awesome. So that's basically what we've been doing for the last 104 days. So I think, do you guys know when you started school? Was it like August 15th-ish? Yeah. More or less, yeah? That's the day that we started rowing. So from the very first day that you started school, all the way till Thanksgiving Day, the day after Thanksgiving Day, we've been rowing, using our bodies to move ourselves down the Mississippi River. So, and that's what we're going to talk to you guys about today. So thank you so much for listening and being here. So it's not just me and Sam. We are part of a team of 5 people that's rowing down the river. So it's the 2 of us, and then Callie is the other girl. Eric is the one in this picture who's sticking his tongue out and looks a little crazy. And then Jordan's the one who looks kind of like a Viking. And together, all of us have been rowing down the river for the past, or we rowed down the river in 104 days. And yeah, it's been pretty crazy, pretty wild. We all just graduated from the University of Puget Sound in Washington. I saw somebody with a Seahawks jersey on, so go Hawks. Yeah, awesome. And so we're all from the state of Washington, or that's where we went to school. So that's where the organization is from. And so we're the boat crew, we're the ones who've been rowing. These guys are our shore team. So they've been back in Washington State. They have been kind of making sure that your guys' teachers get talked to. They make sure that we have places to sleep, that we get our social media out so that we're on Instagram and Facebook. And they're kind of making sure that everything runs smoothly. Because when you're in a boat on a river, you don't always have data in order to update social media sites. But you also can't be making phone calls all the time or talking all the time to people who aren't on the river, because that's what you're rowing. So they're helping us to make sure that everything goes smoothly, that we got down the river okay, and they did a great job. So it wasn't just a 2-person or 5-person effort to get down the river. It required a whole lot of teamwork to make sure that we all got down on time and that we're able to come and speak to all of you guys. Because that's been a big part of it too, is talking to students along the way.
So what are we doing while we're rowing down the entire Mississippi River for over 100 days? The main thing that we're doing is we were collecting science samples. So what we're doing is we're collecting samples of water above and below all the major tributaries that run into the Mississippi River. Has anyone ever heard what a tributary is before? And does someone think they can define it or describe it? Yeah, the red shirt.
It's like it's a bunch of small little waterways that lead to a large river.
Exactly, yeah. It's a bunch of smaller waterways or smaller rivers specifically that flow into a bigger river. So the Mississippi is the 4th largest river in the world and the largest in the U.S. And it has tons and hundreds of smaller rivers that flow directly into it. And above and below all those biggest tributaries, we're collecting these samples of water and then sending them to scientists at Louisiana State University. And they're looking at them for the different chemicals in all those different samples from all those different sites, and looking at the different microbial communities, so the different bacteria and germs in all those different samples. And we'll talk a little bit more about exactly why they're doing that, but basically that lets them know and helps them better understand what those tributaries are bringing into the Mississippi as they flow into it, what kind of chemicals and germs and stuff they're bringing in to the main river. And the other cool thing that we got to do is, how many of you guys have been on Google Earth or Google Maps, Google Street View before? Pretty much all of you almost, I'm guessing. Yeah. And have you ever heard of or seen those self-driving cars that Google has that drive around on the streets with the weird camera strapped on top of them that take pictures? So we actually had one of those cameras. We had a Google Street View camera that we strapped to the top of our boat. And here's a picture of it back from when we were still on the news. So we strapped this to the top of our boat, and this green board on the top of it has 15 different cameras on it, all pointed in different directions. And every single one of those 15 cameras automatically takes a picture every 2 seconds. So as we row down the river, this thing's on all day taking pictures. And it takes about 20,000 pictures a day, all from different angles. So by the time we reached the Gulf of Mexico last Friday, we had taken millions of pictures of the Mississippi River from all these different angles. And what that's going to let people do is they're going to be able to take those pictures and combine them all together to basically make one long, continuous image of the Mississippi River that you can go on your computer and zoom in on Mississippi and look at it from eye level as though you were on a boat and scroll down the whole thing, but sort of from your own computer. So that's the other kind of cool opportunity you guys have during these last 105 days.
So you guys can see that this is a canoe. We were in canoes for the first 21 days of our 104-day experience. And we were in the canoes up to Minneapolis and St. Paul. Do you guys know where Minneapolis is? It's in Minnesota, pretty far north. So that we were in canoes up until then. And they were pretty great boats. We were in them kind of like in the canoes and rowboats all day. So for the morning, we would get up before the sun got up, get on the water, row or paddle pretty much all day, and then take a break for lunch. And then when it started to get dark, we'd find a campsite and camp for the night. Pretty much when it started to get dark. And then in the morning, when it started getting light again, we would get back up and do the exact same thing. So the canoes were great because we were facing forward. How many of you guys have been in a canoe before? A fair amount of you? So you know that when you're canoeing, you're looking forward, you have one hand on top, one hand on the middle, and you're taking big strokes using your arms and your forward, right? So that was pretty fun. But then we got in the rowboats. And the rowboats, how many of you guys have been in a rowboat before? Yeah, so rowboats you're moving backwards. You're not actually looking forward when you're moving. You're using your arms and your legs and your core to propel you forward, but while you're going forward, you're also going backwards. So it's kind of a bit of a confusing concept. But this is what our boats look like. They're pretty big. They're about 17 feet long and 6 feet wide. So it's comfortable enough that 3 people, if they needed to, could sleep in one of them. Or big enough, I guess, that 3 people could sleep in one of them. So they're pretty big. Yeah?
Where's the cameras on that?
So the camera is not, the camera would have been on the other boat, the boat that was taking the picture.
We only have one of those Google Street View cameras, but we have 2 boats.
But if we were in, if the camera was on this boat, it would have gone right here. So the camera went right here and kind of looked down. And so that's where it was, on the rowboats. Yeah?
While you were doing the Google camera thing, Google Maps, like, what if it started raining?
That's a great question. So there's a lot of rules that went along with the Google camera. We called it our Google baby because it was like kind of like taking care of a very small child for any of you guys who babysat or have younger siblings or anything. So there's what if it was. So if it was raining, then we would have to turn it off because rain hitting the screen or hitting all the cameras would mess up the picture. It'd be like if you got water on your camera, you'd just get all those weird blobs, and you don't really want to see a picture like that. So we would actually turn it off while it was raining, and then turn it back on once the rain stopped. So that's a really good question. So we kind of had to make sure that we were really mindful of weather while we had the Google camera because we didn't want any of those images to get messed up. I guess that's so many questions. Yeah.
How do we get the boats back? Like now that we're done. You mean? Oh, so you're talking about when we switched from the canoes to the rowboats? Yeah, so we were in the canoes for the start of our journey. So when we started at Lake Itasca, where the river begins, all the way down to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And then once we got to Minneapolis, we stored our canoes in the University of Minnesota Boathouse. So they're stored over there. And that's also where our rowboats were waiting for us. So we kind of swapped the canoes after the rowboats, and now that's where we're headed. So they're still in Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, instead of raining, you could have put one of those umbrella hats.
We could have. The only problem is, so what's really cool about the camera is there's cameras on all sides of it. So it kind of, have you ever seen like a fly's eye or something? Where it all has like all these different lenses on it? That's what the Google camera looked like. So there's a camera on top and on all the sides. So if we put an umbrella over it, then you wouldn't be able to see some of it because
You still get the other picture.
that's true. But I think the next year or the year after that, they're going to send another group down with another Google camera, hopefully, and it'll mix all the stuff that we would get, all the stuff that we would miss while we're training.
The camera was funny looking enough without an umbrella hat.
It'd be pretty even funnier with an umbrella hat on. Yeah.
The boat while you were, I mean, it seemed like you were out for a long time.
That's a great question. So the rowboats, these ones are really stable. They're made to be like really stable, and that's part of the reason why we switched into them after Minneapolis. Because you guys know all the barges and like the really big ocean liners that go up and down the Mississippi River. Yeah, there's a lot of them down there. So those cause like giant waves to come up, and we didn't. If you're in a canoe, that's like more flimsy and can get rocked around a lot more. Whereas these guys, they can take waves, they can get hit by waves, and they don't really take on a lot of water. They just kind of go right over them. So they're really stable, and you could actually stand on the very edge of the boat, and it wouldn't tip over. That's how stable they are. So they're pretty great. So we didn't actually end up tipping any of this further. And you guys have so many questions, and that's fantastic. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We're going to leave you guys so much room to ask questions, so do hold on to your question. Maybe we'll answer it in the presentation. If we don't, just hold on to it, and we will have so much time for questions at the end. We love answering questions. But before we do that, we have some questions for you guys to see how much you know about the river. So just feel free to raise your hand if you know the answer. And you can guess out any kind of numbers. I know our other half of our team was just at the elementary school, and elementary school kids guess crazy numbers. So like no number is off limits. So does anybody have a guess of how long they think the Mississippi River is? Yeah. Yeah.
23,657.
That is a super exact number, but it is not the right answer.
Very precise, but not very accurate.
So think in terms of miles instead of feet. It's a one hit. Yeah.
Not quite. So, to give you a hint, the Mississippi runs all the way from the northern part of the U.S. down the entire middle of the country, and then ends in the very southernmost U.S. So it goes all the way from north to south. So if it was a straight line, if it was perfectly straight, it'd be a little over 1,000 miles or so. But you have to think the river isn't perfectly straight; it winds back and forth at times. So if that kind of helps you think of a guess. Yeah.
12,500.
Less than that. That's a good guess, but it's considerably smaller. Yeah.
2,500.
That's very, very close. Just a little bit less than that. It's very close though. Okay, two more guesses. Yeah.
2,000 miles?
Between 2,000 and 2,500. Yeah. 2,350.
Wow. That was pretty close.
That's
You were
incredibly
close.
close.
Yeah.
So the official answer is 2,320 miles. But the thing is, like, you guessed 2,350, and that's really in ways just as good of an answer as this official number. Because the thing about the Mississippi River is that it's constantly changing, and its length and size is constantly changing. Partly for natural reasons, because if you guys ever heard of how a river meanders before, a meandering river, that just means it winds back and forth. And if it winds back and forth sharply enough, that whole turn, or that whole bend of the river can get cut off from the rest of the river. And that's how an oxbow lake is formed. Have you ever heard of those? There were these lakes that kind of look like crescent moons. And they used to be part of the river, but their turn became so sharp that it got cut off and became its own lake. So that can cut off tens or even hundreds of miles when that happens. And then man-made reasons, too, have affected the length of the Mississippi. Because you guys have the levee, here, flood walls and other stuff like that, that help to prevent flooding and help makes it easier for ships to navigate the river. But they also make the river a lot straighter and narrower. So those also affect the length of the river. So maybe today it's 2,320 miles, but maybe this time next year it's 2,350. So it's kind of cool that it's never, it's always changing.
So the next question is, do you guys have a guess of how many states the Mississippi River runs through? Yeah. 15? 10. 10 is correct. Yes. So you both can get credit for that answer. And do you guys think you can guess all of the states that it runs through? Yeah.
Minnesota.
Good.
Louisiana.
Good. Good. You can phone a friend if you need help. You can write out your answer. Michigan is not. But those three are really good. Does anybody else have any other guesses? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good, yeah.
About half of it.
You can phone a friend if you need to. Yeah. Tennessee, good.
Illinois.
Good. No, not Kansas. That's a good guess. Yeah, over here. Missouri was said. Missouri, it does run through Missouri, but Missouri was said. Yeah. Not Oklahoma. Yeah. Did you know that none of those are actually real states? Are still not a real state. Yeah, all the way in the back. Ohio is a good guess, but it is not in Ohio. Yeah, one more. Texas is also a good guess, and not Texas. Also not Alaska. All right, you guys want to see the answer? So you can see the map here. So the Mississippi River is really interesting because it creates the state lines for all the different states that it runs through. Except for the very end of Louisiana and the very beginning of Minnesota. It creates all those state lines, which is why they're all so wavy and windy. It's because the river is wavy and windy as well. And a lot of the structure of the United States is built upon the structure of the river, which is really cool and really interesting. And I know something that I didn't really think about before I wrote.
And have you guys ever heard the term watershed before? Have you ever heard that word before? So watershed is simple. All it means is it's the area of land where all the different types of water in that area, so all the different rivers and lakes and all the rainwater that falls on the ground, all drain into one bigger body of water. So the Mississippi River watershed is the entire area of land in the U.S. where all forms of water eventually end up in the Mississippi River. And can you guys see the light green on this map? This light green, which extends from everything east of the Rocky Mountains and everything west of the Appalachians. Everything in between that is part of the Mississippi River watershed. So 31 out of 50 states all drain their water directly into the Mississippi River. So if a drop of rain falls in Denver, Colorado, all the way over here, eventually that raindrop is going to end up in the Mississippi River. So that kind of helps explain why it's so huge, right? And it's kind of cool because while only 10 states border the Mississippi, way more than that are actually connected to it. So it's kind of this river that connects a huge chunk of the entire country. And for me, I grew up in Oregon. And if you guys know where Oregon is, it's in the way far northwest. And it's one of the states that actually isn't a part of the Mississippi River watershed. And because I was so far away from the Mississippi River, you might think I never had anything to do with it growing up. But that really wasn't the case at all, because the Mississippi River is such an important river to the U.S. and U.S. history that I actually spent a lot of time in school growing up learning about the Mississippi and learning about its history. And some of the stuff I remember learning was some of the coolest stuff I think I ever learned in school. And particularly the coolest thing I remember learning about Mississippi was about the flatboats and the flatboat era. Have you guys ever heard of the flatboats before? That's kind of around Mark Twain time. So they were around in the early 1800s and the middle 1800s. And these flatboats basically did what barges today do. They carried stuff, cargo, up and down the river to be sold all across the world. And these flatboats were made by hand by people called flatboatmen. And what they would do is they would make these boats by hand out of any spare pieces of wood they could find. And they'd take the boats with all their cargo down the entire Mississippi River all the way to the bottom. But by the time they reached the bottom of the river, their boats would have been so broken down that they couldn't take them back upriver to their homes without them sinking. So what they would have to do is they would tear their boats apart and sell whatever wood was still good enough to sell, and then they would walk on land back to wherever they were from. So they would spend their yearly schedule making a boat for part of the year, and then taking it down the river for the other part of the year, and then walking on land back to their houses for the other part of the year. And they did this year in, year out, every year until they died. What was that? Why did they just make another boat? Well, because not only was the boat so broken down that it would have been hard to take back upriver, but even if they were to make a new one, trying to get a boat upriver, don't have a motor, was extremely difficult because the current's so